Hello, welcome to Cheyenne's Forum. Today is April 2nd. Right now, the time is 12 noon at California time, Pacific time. So nice to see you, Tom.
Nice to see you, Shane.
Yeah, so Tom is our my dear friend, and he works in FBA for almost 30 years and has been the the director, assistant director for 5 years in FBI. So he has lots of information, and he just come out and tell people, tell the world what's happening right now in this country. And I really appreciate it, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you for
Sure.
putting me on. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. So it's been 2 weeks since our last interview, and today I want introduce a topic. It's a very sad and heavy topic. As always, is illegal immigrants here in the states. I read an article yesterday. It's happened yesterday, and said that the Biden administration already um, bring almost 400,000 illegal immigrants directly from Central America to the US to different cities, and said about 40 different cities. Nobody knows what's the background of these people. So the article has a lot of data and research and proof that this administration already done this damage to this country and break the immigration law. And I translate the article. It's a long article to Chinese, and then when I go back to read the original article again, the article is gone. So I just think about today's program. I'd like to um, ask Tom, what do you think about this topic and why the article is just gone? It's a research paper on the Immigration Research Center website, and
And what?
also the fact that these amount of illegal immigrants with no any background check to brought directly to American cities. What's that mean to American people? What's that mean to this country?
Well, it's a continuing effort on the part of the administration to hide exactly what they're doing, exactly how much damage is being done by the number of illegal migrants coming into by not letting us know how many are coming in. And
Mm.
now, there was enough media at the Texas border, at the southern border, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California, to be able to have some idea of how many people walked in across the border, came across the Rio Grande River,
Mm.
or got away from the authorities and weren't directly encountered. But they were able, through drone coverage and other closed circuit TV and other reporting, to have some idea of how many people were coming in, making it very difficult for them to hide from the American people how many were getting across the border. So the
Mhm.
new strategy, to save the administration from having to lie so much, because we can't have that. We don't want them to have to lie every day. So the new strategy is they've been flying them in from other countries directly. Then they
Right.
don't have to walk across the border. You
Mhm.
can't count the gotaways unless you have a telescope and you can see them fly by and get an
Mhm.
idea how many may be on that airplane. And so
Mhm.
that's the difference. Now they've admitted to, I think about a month ago, they admitted that they had brought in 320,000 that way, but we don't know if that's true. We
Yeah,
don't
I
know
don't
how to
trust them.
verify it. We don't
Mhm.
know where they're landing. We don't know. What we do know is that one thing we can count on with this administration is they're just going to lie. They are not going to tell us the truth, how many are coming in, who they are, where they're going, what they're doing, how much it's costing, what are we paying.
Mhm.
And they're just trying to ignore most of the threats about, that we now have a few enemies in the world that have said out loud they want to attack us in the United States,
Mhm.
from Hezbollah to Hamas to other groups, a lot of it having to do with the current situation in Israel, the Israel Defense Force and their attacks on Palestinians in Gaza, and now some additional attacks in the area in Syria and some of the other areas. And Israel stating that they're going to expand the war to be in the north as well. Go into Lebanon, go after Hezbollah, and they're kind of preparing people that this is what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so now, we've had some interesting developments along those lines with, in the last couple of weeks, you have Schumer, senator from New York, leader of the Senate, basically issuing a statement that Netanyahu should be taken out of office, or they should have elections, or he should stop and have peace. And so there's been a big outcry in the U.S. and around the world of how dare, the United States say what Israel should do politically, whether their prime minister should quit or be removed or be prosecuted or somebody else be elected or all of that. Who is he to weigh in on what they should do politically in their country? But there's a lot at stake, obviously, with the Gaza war. There's still a lot at stake in the Ukraine-Russia situation. And now you've got the immigrant thing. And then you have Biden, in addition to his lies, basically saying there's nothing he can do about the border unless he's given money, unless he's given some new laws, new power, new abilities, new personnel, you name it. And he's not admitting to the fact that, well, how was Trump able to stop the border trafficking 3.5 years ago with the same laws, the same resources, the same personnel, the same border protection people on the ground, the same ICE agents in many of the big cities? How did all that happen? And all of that came to a screeching halt the day Biden was sworn in January of 21, when he started issuing dozens of executive orders, which countermanded the orders that were already in place with Trump. That included the stay in Mexico policy, for immigrants applying for refugee or asylum status in the U.S. That included building the fence, building the wall, many other things that had been in place regarding immigration and crossing the border. Biden undid that himself. So he doesn't need new laws. He needs to put back and undo the bad directives that he gave, the bad executive orders that he gave ever since he took office. So again, just with the Biden administration, I've never seen anything like this. Just, occasionally the administrations put out statements that aren't quite they're close to accurate, but not quite. No lying on the scale like we've seen with the Biden administration and with Joe Biden himself.
Right.
Not just his people like Mayorkas, who's, a natural born liar himself, or not the attorney general or the director of the FBI or other senior officials, but and their press secretary, John Kirby and what's her name, that there's almost nothing truthful comes out of either of their mouths on any given day. But nobody is a bigger, more prolific liar going back decades than Joe Biden. And on these issues, since he was sworn in as president, he has done nothing but lie about whose fault it is and how it is that all these border crossings happen and he can't stop them. And he didn't, and until recently, he didn't even say he wanted to stop them. He just ignored this completely. No explanation, no worry. And then all of a sudden now, when he's losing in it practically every poll, I think he's maybe close in a couple of border state or borderline states, but in spite of all of that, now all of a sudden he's realizing, his advisors are trying to pound into his head that, hey, we're losing because of this border. That has become the number one issue in the country, and not just in Texas or the border states, Arizona, New Mexico, California, but as far away as New Hampshire. When they had the New Hampshire primary a month or so ago, it was the number one issue. And that's 1,000 miles from the Mexican border. So people everywhere are feeling the effects of the trafficking of migrants, the trafficking of children, the trafficking of sex workers or sex slaves by the cartels. All of this is going on, and he's tried to deny it. Or you'll hear his press secretary, Jean-Pierre, come on the air and say, this is Trump's fault. Oh, really? Yeah, it is Trump's fault. He left the presidency. He left the White House. So if you want to blame Trump for the migrant crisis we have in the country, there's the blame. They told us, I should say, 3.5 years ago, Trump's a dictator. He'll never leave. We may have to send the military into the White House to pull him out of the office. Well, they didn't have to. Trump actually left under his own power, moved all the stuff to Mar-a-Lago, and he left the White House peacefully and legally like he should have. That's the problem. We need him. We needed him all that time since. And that's why we see this invasion going on over 3 years. And suddenly Biden, when he thinks there's a political price to play, oh, well, then we have to do something about the border that Trump let it go bad. And that's where you get there's just one lie after the other. And it's very difficult. The founding fathers in this country 250 years ago said the democracy will depend on a public, the voters, who will be correctly informed, truthfully informed of what is going on. So they can decide what policies we should have and who we should elect to carry out those policies. Now, it's not a true democracy. It never was. We don't vote on every law, the whole public. All 350 million of us don't vote for every law or every, rule. We elect people that do that. That's a republic, like ancient Rome, the republic, the Senate and the House that we elect to represent us on Capitol Hill. They decide, but we decide who does that, who our representatives are. Right. And I think that when you have Biden come in and just illegally make up every rule he wants to, and then ignore even Supreme Court rulings when it doesn't go his way. Like he's had 2 or 3 Supreme Court decisions go against his policy of telling people they don't have to pay back their student loans. Now, those loans, individual student has signed a contract with the bank, with the school, to borrow so much money, and they will pay it back in a certain amount of time. Biden comes along and says, no, you don't have to pay it back. Taxpayers will pay it back. You don't have to. You don't have that authority. Supreme Court said you don't have that authority. But
still do whatever he wants to do.
Not only will still keep doing what he was doing, but add another one. Issue another proclamation on student loans.
Right. So when I read the article regarding the illegal immigrants, there are 2 points catch my eyes. First, when they brought these illegal immigrants to the States, the first stop is at Florida and Texas. That's the first thing. Second, the project.
The issue, if I can stop there, the issue with that is, do they know they're coming in? The ones that are being flown in, do they know when those planes come, what planes they're on, where they're going? Or are they being flown into more interior cities in the country? I think that's the problem, is that the Texas and the governors in Texas and Florida may not know that they're even coming, or that they're on those specific planes. Because don't forget, several years ago, you had reports that planes were being flown in with illegal migrants into airports outside of New York City and outside neighboring counties of New York. And they were flying in unmarked airplanes coming in at 1 or 2 in the morning. What does the administration do? Go right to the playbook, plan A, lie. Oh, they're not doing it. And then you have people in those airports taking videos of them with their iPhones or cameras saying, look, here they are getting off that plane. Right. Migrants coming into the U.S. illegally. Then the administration, they had to stop doing it for a while, but they had to keep lying. They had to figure a new way to get them in where they could. So I think that a lot of these flights have, they're still trying to sneak them in. So they're not walking across the border where they can be counted, where drones can pick out how many are coming in, or other closed circuit television, any of that. But if they fly them in secretly in unmarked airplanes, nobody will know. Nobody has any idea until they show up at the airports, police stations, and I mean the airports like Chicago O'Hare, where they're camped out in the terminals, or other places, public places, where they're just coming in and moving in. And now you have the newest, latest thing, a Venezuelan illegal put on the internet how to be a squatter. how to
Mm-hmm.
move
Yeah.
in illegally into someone's home. If they're
Mm-hmm.
on vacation or they go to the grocery store or they do something, move right in and don't leave. And
Mm-hmm.
then what? So the people in these cities call the police. Well, there's nothing we can do. And they're trying to pass laws to give them tenant rights, the
Mm-hmm.
squatters. So now you have industry of people saying we can out squat the squatters. We'll
Mm-hmm.
move in with them, and then we'll be in the kitchen with them. We'll be in the living room. So you have some of that going on. Squatters for hire. Um,
It's
to get the
totally
other squatters out. So
opposite.
that's a new, it's like every time you turn around, they've come up with a new dilemma as
Mm-hmm.
a result of this illegal migration. And oh,
Right.
by the way, don't forget, stop using the term illegals or illegal migrants. They're newcomers, they're neighbors. We have to give them the proper names. This is just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's totally out of control and no law and order at all. And also, according to the report, the plan by Biden administration is start at October 2022. They start doing that 1.5 year ago. And first, it's only they bought the illegal immigrants from Venezuela, and then at January 2023, 3 months later, they expand this plan to people from Cuba, Haiti, um, Colombia, Salvador, and Honduras, Ecuador. And these people are come from the country that has lots of terrorism and the gang. So what do you think their true purpose, true goal to do that, to bring this kind of illegal immigrants directly to American cities? These people are dangerous.
Yeah, they're very dangerous. And, you know, last summer, earlier in the summer, you had the director of the FBI say, "Oh, the open borders are a threat to national security," and he has said that several times. In fairness to him,
Mm-hmm.
um, but at the same time, in between those speeches, he gives speeches on, well, we still have to worry about white supremacists and MAGA and Republicans who are going to vote for Trump. Go with the party line of Merrick Garland and Joe Biden. Those are the real dangerous people that are coming in, and not just them. Don't forget the parents at school board meetings. Don't forget the people that go to Catholic churches where they do the mass in Latin, and with no, they want to take down the Catholic or Christian religions, especially the Catholic Church. That's an open target. So accuse anybody in the Catholic Church, without any explanation of the history of that. Now, when
Right.
I was a young boy, I went to Catholic school several years.
Mm-hmm.
Friends of mine that were altar boys, and at that time in the '60s, the masses were still done in Latin. And when
Mm-hmm.
you don't understand the words, it sounds really beautiful and really powerful. Later,
Mm-hmm.
when you hear the words, not so much, but when in English. But what happens is that there's a couple of meetings in Vatican, in Rome, and the Pope goes along with their suggestions where they say, maybe we should loosen the restrictions and we would have more people going to Catholic churches if they preserve the Latin Mass, just as tradition. People like hearing it. Like I said, the first 10 years of my life, I heard the Mass in Latin. And
Mm-hmm.
then later, the Pope issues rules or new rules that say the church in each of these countries around the world can decide. They can still do Mass in Latin, or they can adopt the language of the country they're in. So if it's in America, you can do the Mass in English. If you're in, Latin America, do it in Spanish. Wherever you're at in the world, you can do it in the language of your home country,
Mm-hmm.
or still do it in Latin, or both, do some of each. So
Mm-hmm.
for a matter of nostalgia, so people my age or my parents' age even that grew up hearing the Mass in Latin and nothing but Latin, they missed it. They wanted to hear it in Latin,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a Romance language, the basis of later Italian and Spanish and other European languages. It sounds beautiful. It has that great sound.
Mm-hmm.
Until you hear what the words are, then they're not so powerful. But the sound of the language is meaningful to people that grew up hearing it. But
Right.
now The FBI decides in January of 23, little over 15 months ago, well, if you go to mass and it's in Latin, you might be a domestic terrorist. You might be an extremist. Unbelievable. Because, and by the way, the idea that the United States and the Western world is gradually going Marxist, that's just a fact. So, that's part of the plan of Marxism is take you away from your religion, destroy your religious beliefs, destroy your family beliefs, destroy your beliefs in the history of the country, destroy your beliefs in morality that comes from God.
Right.
Make it so that you only believe man-made laws and rules. And even 250 years ago, the founding fathers recognized, and in the Declaration of Independence, in the Constitution itself, in the first 10 amendments, which is called the Bill of Rights, they distinctly put in there that your civil rights come from God, not from politicians, not from the king, not from lawmakers or senators or congressmen. God, your rights are from God. And if you read the Declaration of Independence, it states that within the first two paragraphs. Unalienable rights,
right,
from God, not from a Congress. And so that's what the creeping Marxism that we're starting to see, and the plan, and I've read many books on the coming of Marxism, which goes back to Karl Marx writes the Communist Manifesto in London in 1848. So it took a little bit while, but at the turn of the 21st century, it was already starting to come into political philosophy in many countries to try to get the countries to adopt and be pitted in a kind of class warfare. So if you have the richer part of the country stole it from the poor people. So if you're not rich, you're a victim. You were stolen from. You were exploited. And that has come and gone as a philosophy. But in the last 2 or 3 decades now, it's really picked up a lot because it just sounds so great. So if you're teaching that in college, or high school or college, that sounds wonderful. Take the money from the rich because they stole it from you, give it to the poor. What a great idea. Sounds like, what could be wrong with that? Well, a lot of things could be wrong. When you take away the incentive of building your economy, building your own personal wealth that benefits the economy, benefits all the people. So the idea of Marxism is a better system than capitalism.
Tom? I think we got some issue on the connection or the internet. Let me check my part. Let's wait for a while. All right. Okay, let me use this this period of time to see the feedback of our audience. And Big Dream, 你好, Yui, hello. So happy to see you both. So happy to see you guys. And then Yui said, yes, I can encounter people who cross the border illegally in my daily life. That's really scary. And then Zheng Wei said, 这是很大的安全隐患. It's very, very dangerous, huh? Why Biden hate the Americans so badly? That's a good question. That's our question. And Yui said, against 用走线来这个中性化偷渡的概念. So when they are illegal immigrants, they're not just newcomer. It's the concept is very important. Sometimes we see the mainstream media try to use the newcomer instead of illegal immigrants, which is not right. So come from what crimes they may have committed or disease they may have. That's a good question. Thank God Americans have lots of rightness people who like Tom. Thank you so much. Yes, we do need people to stand up and to say what's going on here and just tell the truth and don't scare about tell the truth. This is a critical time to American and to this world. Okay, let me see if Tom can come back again. Sorry about that. This situation happened last time when we doing our interview. I don't know if you guys still remember. All of a sudden, Tom is just disconnect. The connection is just gone, and then he came back about 2 to 3 minutes, and then we keep talking. After about 15 minutes, it's just disconnect again. So hopefully, okay, he's back. Thank you for waiting, guys. Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes,
Yes.
this is your iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but I cannot see you. I can hear you. Do I supposed to see you? Okay, you're back.
Hang on 1 second. I don't know why my laptop lost internet for no reason.
Is that happened last time, remember?
I think the last time we got through it, but it was hmm. Well, is this good enough on the iPhone?
Yes, yes, I can hear you very clearly. Thank you
Okay.
for coming back. So yeah, I just check out our feedback from our audience. They said one friend said, Yui said he or she can encounter people who cross the border illegally in my daily life. So she's in living one of the city in the States. And the other audience just asked why Biden hate Americans so badly. These people, this administration and some um our politics, they hate our country. They hate the American people. We don't have any other explanation why they do that. It's like a suicide to the country, to the community. Just like
I
you
think,
mentioned. Go ahead.
yeah, I think they want to bring down the United States without question. And
Mm,
and the problem I have, among many problems, but one of the problems is that, whoever Joe Biden reminds me of, somebody is like a puppet master and he's just dancing on the strings,
uh,
doing what they tell him to do.
mhm,
So may or may not be what Biden believes in. May not.
mhm,
Because you can look at so many speeches he's given, even as vice president. We need to have solid borders. We need to put a wall up. We need to
mhm,
deport people. We need to do all of these things
mhm.
that he's doing the opposite of now. And I
Exactly.
think that it's hard to explain to people that aren't familiar with Marxism
Mm,
that this has been a long Marxist slow drive to
mhm,
bring the country down,
mhm,
and it's working. And their philosophy to do it. If you read many good books on it, even recent books like Mark Levin has written books about American Marxism, and other political scholars have written books about it. And they're basically saying that, the philosophy is a strategy that starts with get the public to no longer believe in the family, eliminate family values. That starts number one.
mm,
Eliminate moral values, preach abortion, preach other, if somebody took stuff away from you, steal it back, steal from others to sustain yourself if you want. You're a victim. You deserve reparations. You deserve to be paid by the government, by
mm,
other people. They took it from you, take it back. It's yours. Um, Education. teach this in the schools. Don't teach the American history or how unique the United States is, what's so special about this country. No, country was founded by white racist males. That's it. You have no business respecting it. You have no business having respect for the founding fathers. Let's take their names off of our schools and parks and monuments. Jefferson, Washington, Lincoln, all of those guys. They're no good. We have no business having respect for them. So you have this systematic dismantling of American values, of even talking about American values or talking about religious values. And it's not just Christianity, although that's kind of the majority of the people, so they go after that, but Judaism and Islam and any religion that teaches that there's a God and God is superior to your elected men and women, then you got to eliminate that. You've got to eliminate that religion and make up for it somehow. Now, in the times of the Soviet Union, when you travel through Eastern Europe or travel through Russia, and you see these magnificent opera houses, for example, back when those countries were under communist rule, the government wisely set up all of these state-of-the-art, top-of-the-line orchestras in some of these capital cities, whether it's Warsaw or Budapest or Czech Republic, Prague, any of these cities, so that the people it would be easy for the people to go to these concerts and be lulled into, oh, everything's great, and not take on any criticism of the government or the system of government, that they have. So I think that, the strategy that's been in place for several decades, slowly but surely is now taking hold. And part of it is, I think, too, that it's taking young people are adopting it as a great idea because they think, I can't afford a house. I can't afford to get married. I can't afford to have children. I can't afford all these things. Well, whose fault is that? It must be the guy down the street in the big house. He's oppressing me. He's oppressing my family and all of that. So my religion is worthless. My politics is worthless. I've got to go along with the idea that the state should be in charge. And you've seen everywhere where that's been implemented for the past 100 years, it's failed. So you can go back to 2017, the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. People will say, yeah, Stalin killed 30 million citizens and starved them to death, especially in the Ukraine. But if I was in charge, it would have been fine. It's just that the system is great, just a bad leader. Or Mao takes over China and establishes the PRC in 1949. And then, tens of millions of people died during Mao's regime. The 60s, the Cultural Revolution, they're teaching children to turn in their parents if they're not towing the line of the regime. And again, people now will say, well, Mao he wasn't the right guy. The system was great, Mao's no good. Well, now we see it. What comes next? Cuba, Venezuela, all of these countries end up starting out socialist or adopt socialism, turning into communism. And it's the same thing. The economies go downhill quickly. Venezuela is a classic example. Venezuela was pretty much the richest country in South America. Right. Now it's pretty much the poorest. How'd that happen? Well, it's Chavez and Maduro. These guys, if I would have been in charge of Venezuela, it'd be great. So if we adopt socialism and communism here in the United States, we just need the right people on the Politburo to run the country. If we have that, it'll be great. And we'll be taking away from the rich oppressors that stole it from us in the first place. And that's kind of what we see here. It's a great promise. And young people especially, and the other thing, by the way, on the young people issue is, when I was in grade school, high school, college, pretty much one of my favorite subjects, besides studying political science and law and those type of things, but my next favorite thing to study, history. And I've studied that ever since, even now. I spend 30 or 40 times the amount on history as I spend on anything else. I don't watch hardly any sports anymore. I don't care about all that stuff. I want to learn, how did we get here?
Right.
What was our past? What was our pathway to get here? Why do
Sure.
so many millions of people, tens of millions, want to come to the United States, even legally, over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 decades? My grandparents that came uh, legally migrating to the United States, you, your family, your friends, my
Mhm.
wife, her family, her friends,
Right.
coming over because they wanted to come to the United States, thinking it was a superior country to anywhere else on earth, not just economically, or you could make money here, the American dream, but the system. We had a fair judicial system. We had, you had rights here that could not be taken away from you. And now we see in the last couple of years, with somebody like Biden coming into office,
Mhm.
he has no appreciation of the Constitution, of the Bill of Rights, or that your rights mean anything. He can violate them. He can do what he wants. He
Right.
can go after a political opponent like Donald Trump and do everything he can to keep him in jail for the next 70 years. He can do all of those things. And, to me, it's not just ignorance, stupidity, naivete, it's evil. I think he has adopted his followers, the other people in the Democratic Party. Why do they follow each other like a herd of rats?
Exactly.
Whatever they vote on, they vote together.
Yeah.
And it's no matter what. Okay, that we'll go along with that policy. And
Mhm.
I think that I look at the damage someday again. As a history lover, I'm imagining what will it be like, you know, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, when
Mhm.
people look back on the United States, will they look back on this country like we look at ancient Rome? Well, it was a great system for 400 years. And then, the elites took over and lawlessness took over and they extended their military all over the world beyond where they could afford. All of the things we see the United States doing now and then being subverted from within, the values, all of that. And at the time, people in the Roman Empire, they blamed, if they wanted to throw parties, if they wanted to do something fun in their mind,
Mhm.
illegal, um, if they were prevented from doing it, they blamed it on their police, the Centurions. A
Mhm.
great U.S. movie, 1971, starring George C. Scott, The New Centurions, hits that point. And in the lecture, George C. Scott is a senior police officer training a young recruit. And one day they're having a conversation in a bar after work. And George C. Scott is explaining what happened in Rome, how the people come to hate the new centurions because they represented preventing them from doing all the fun things they wanted to do.
Mhm.
And he was referring to the police in the US in 1971 when the movie was made. Um, he was referring to them as, we are now the new centurions. And
Mhm.
so if you're a police officer, and at the time seeing this movie, I was a young police officer, and I'm thinking, yeah, we are. And you look at law enforcement. So where has law enforcement been in the United States in the last 5 or 10 years? When
Mhm.
you have leadership in all of these cities, counties, and states, let's defund the police. Let's
Right.
dismantle the police. Let's
Mhm.
take away their power. Let's
Yeah.
hire social workers to go do some of these work.
Right.
And the police now, the real police are the new centurions, to be criticized, to be disrespected, to be
Mhm.
killed if they
Mhm.
don't like it. And that's kind of what we see right now, the dismantling of our authorities and
Mhm.
the positions in our system that we've in the past respected.
Mhm. Well, Tom, we're actually talking about the border issue. We're talking about the education issue. We talk about the LGBTQ everywhere. We talk about the DEI, and we talk about the AG everywhere from Soros. And these are all facts that we see, but right now, more clearly, we can see the idea behind these facts. It's someone, some force want to destroy the American by the communist regime. So I just curious that what do you think about the number of the population in American right now, they're really truly believe in communist socialism? How many people? I know that it's not, I'm not asking for a number. I'm just want to know how many 10%, 20%, 30% American people really believe in the communist, believe in the socialism. Is that a
Well,
lot or not a lot?
well, if you look at, let's just say Biden himself, with approval rating but close to 40%,
Mm-hmm.
what are they supporting? What has he done of a positive nature
I know.
that 40% of the US electorate think is great, think we should support him? It's unbelievable.
Do you think the number is true or they make the number? I don't believe that's
Well, it sure looks like it when you see the thousands of votes that they get where it's close enough to cheat. And I think that, I like Trump's new campaign slogan this year is we have to have too big to rig. We have to win by so many votes, it's too hard for them to steal the difference
Mhm.
and have Biden win. And I think but it's unbelievable that it's even in the polls even close. How can it be?
Yeah,
When they say, oh, Trump is leading by 3 points in the state, only three?
no, I
Only
don't believe
three?
that.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
Now, it
so,
could be that he's winning by 25, 30. But then when the election's over and they steal the difference, people will say, well, Trump was only 2, 3 points ahead. So now that Biden won, well, it was close enough.
mhm.
It was close enough that they didn't steal those votes. The public just that day decided to vote for Biden. And
Mhm.
I think that's where, to me, it's very disheartening, especially when you see some of the things that they want to do, what proposals some of the Democrats are making for
Right,
the future,
right.
new laws, new regulations,
Mhm.
and then continuing the bad laws and the bad uh, rules and regulations that they've put in. So I
Right.
think, I used to, when I heard every election, this is the most important election in our lifetime. You better pay attention. This is it. And I used to think, okay, they said it every time. Now I look at some of the things that the Biden administration and his cabinet and his military and what they have in mind, and I'm thinking, this is this
Mm.
is serious. It's serious stuff for this country.
Sure, I agree. Totally agree with you. And the last question regarding the issue, the immigration issue is, do you think Congress can do anything to stop them to bring the illegal immigrants directly from their country, fly to our cities? Did you think the Congress can do anything to stop it? Since right now,
I think they can, but the question there is why aren't they? And I agree with you. Why are so many Republicans going along with some of the just what I think are evil policies
right?
by the Democratic Party as a party, by
Mhm.
Joe Biden as a president and leader of the party and leader of the country? How can they support that? How can they get behind these laws? um, I don't know.
Hmm. Well, it's so sad when we talk about this topic, and then lots of audience just feel that there's no hope. What can we do? I know our audience are the people who really cares and love this country, and they want to do something. They want to know the truth. Second, I think most of them are want to do something to change. So rather than go out to vote, is there anything else that we can do as an American citizen?
I think in the short run, for those that have the time to do it, that aren't too busy, with their children and other issues. But, one thing would be a big part of the evil that's going on really comes out of our school boards and county commissioners' offices. So run for those offices. Right now you've got, the Biden administration and Merrick Garland trying to imply that if you go to a school board meeting and you argue against the propaganda that they want to teach or the books that they want, the pornography they want your children to read, or any of that kind of stuff, or the fact that teachers promoting transgender surgeries And the idea that the parents don't have to know, that they can hide it from the parents. A lot of those kind of rules are more local. They start at the school board level. So I would say get involved with who's running your school board. I saw some goofy ruling that the Fairfax County Board of Commissioners came up with in the last couple of days. I think it had to do with the president issuing the proclamation on Saturday that Sunday, Easter Sunday, will be transgender, transparency day or something like that. Now, that rule did not start under Biden. It actually started during the Obama administration, and they've had it several days. It just happened that this year, that day landed on Easter Sunday, March 31st. And so you hear Biden, here's Biden, classic Biden. He puts out the proclamation on Saturday that Sunday will be transgender, whatever, transparency day.
Right.
And it goes out, and there's not one word, by the way, that it's one of the holiest days in the Christian religion. Exactly. When Jesus came back from being crucified, came back from the dead, was resurrected, and that's why it's an enormous holiday in Christianity. So he doesn't mention that. Tens of millions of people in the United States celebrate Easter as a Christian holiday. Not a word out of Biden. He puts out transgender, which is population-wise, 1 or 2% of the population at the most. And then the big backlash comes, as you would expect, for him doing that. And what does Biden do? Have his press secretary say today, he didn't say that.
Yeah.
He didn't put that out. That's not true. So how much bigger of a lie can you say about it?
In front of the world.
Just lie and tell more lies. And, so that's what you see, that an administration, but the bottom line, an administration that glorifies people having sex change surgeries and not people that worship Catholic Mass or Christian Mass or Jesus Christ as the Savior, or he came back from the dead on Resurrection Sunday, on Easter Sunday. None of that. Let's talk about transgender. Let's talk about how the schools should be able to send your kid to a doctor to have medicine to stop puberty blockers, to stop the child naturally becoming a young man or a young woman. Let's start with that. Let's start amputating girls' breasts, do mastectomies on them. Let's start castrating young boys. Let's start trying to give them artificial organs made out of other tissue. And then you have psychiatrists, the ones that are honest and not afraid to say it out loud, saying we have many children or teenagers or young adults now that have gone through this and are now suicidal. They now realize they don't want to have their sex changed, and it can't be reversed. They could never, no matter what happens, they can never have children ever. So that's out. So it's like we have a generation of teachers and medical professionals who are saying there's no problem just mutilating our children, their sexual organs, and the rest of them go along with that, their hormones, their body construction, their mental construction, so that now, for a lot of them, they'll probably end up killing themselves as they get older.
So this is a pure evil behave.
It's flat out evil. Yeah, this isn't just a case of, well, I disagree with your philosophy. I disagree with you a little bit on your politics. No, I disagree with the fact that you're pure evil. And you're bringing down a generation of children, a generation of not just Americans. This is going on in many Western countries, and people just go along with it. They don't even want to analyze, well, what are the ramifications of this in the long run for our society?
It's remind me a book, a very famous book from China. Her name is Long Yingtai. He wrote a book, and the title of the book is "And Why Chinese People? Why don't you be angry?" So I have the same question to American people. American people, why don't you angry to this evil behave? including the LGBTQ thing, the transgender thing, to harm our next generation and to open the board, to destroy our belief, to destroy the religion, destroy this country, destroy the legal system. Why do American people be angry about that? This is.
Well, I think part of the reason is that a large percentage of the people just don't even know. They're just uninformed that this level of abuse of our children, for example, very few people know about this. Now, I remember more than a year ago, Tucker Carlson, when he was still the #1 anchor in the world, still at Fox News, he did an expose of Vanderbilt Hospital in Nashville, Tennessee, talking about that they have a department there, which the hospital was denying. They have a department there making millions and millions of dollars on surgery of children, trans surgery or sexual relocation or all the different names they give it to make it sound less terrible than it is. And, among the reasons, that these are part of the reasons why Tucker got fired from Fox, even though he was the #1 anchor, because he was telling these stories that went against the political narrative. He was talking about how evil what Vanderbilt, one of the premier hospitals in the country, what they were doing as a matter of policy, and it was evil. The hospital didn't want anybody to know, this was a big scandal that he brought that up. So they had to kill that story. The stories, the phony stories about Ukraine and the Russia-Ukraine situation, the stories about the United States toppling the government of the Ukraine in 2014, so we'd get a new administration in Ukraine that would do what we want, leading up to Zelensky, the current guy running that country theoretically. So you have the desire on the part of some news people, not many, to put out the truth, and then when they put it out, they're just blasted, criticized, and then eventually it was enough criticism of Tucker for Fox to take him off the air. And in the long run now, thanks to Elon Musk, he's able to put his Tucker Carlson network out, and many of these videos now are coming out. But at the time, one of the sources of accurate news was being stifled on purpose, and the executives at Fox were going along with it because they were all basically starting to agree with the deep state philosophy that these evil things aren't happening and we shouldn't talk about them.
This is a fight. This is a war, and maybe it's the last war during our lifetime. So if we win, our life will just keep going like the life we used before. But if we lost our next generation, 1 generation, 2 generation. So we have no choice to fight back.
Yeah.
And Christian watched the news. He said Tom's message hitting the evil's bottom. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what's crime? Okay, thank God. Oh yeah. Yeah. And Yui said that she's totally agree with you that we do not use the newcomer. We do not use this word. We use illegal immigrants. Don't change the world. Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. So while we're talking about a heavy issue about the illegal immigrants are already being sent to lots of our cities, and then should we just tell our audience be careful because our community and our cities are never like before, so we need to really take care of ourselves.
Yeah, many of these situations are dangerous and nobody wants to talk about it. So now when you get, a citizen on a high profile murder, they want to downplay it. The media doesn't want to cover it. They don't want you to talk about it. Or if you mention that an illegal immigrant committed a murder against a citizen out jogging, that, oh, no, don't say illegal. And you had Biden himself apologizing for saying it was an illegal immigrant that killed Lincoln in Georgia out jogging. Mm-hmm. And I think that, go along with that. Go along with, we can't, yeah, you're right, we can't call them. Now, you remember back when Trump was president, like in the first year of his presidency, he made a statement because we had MS-13 gang members from El Salvador that were, in the murders they were committing in the U.S., they were just horrifically brutal. They tortured their victim. Many of their victims were 16, 17, 18-year-olds, some cases girls. And MS-13 gang members, they would get more credit from their partners the more brutal the murder was. Dismember the victim and chop off limbs, torture, and make them bleed to death and all of that. And Trump, in a cabinet meeting in the White House, referred to them as animals. These animals and what they're doing. Well, they are animals. And at the time he said that, remember Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, speaks of, oh no, they're all God's children. Well, one of God's children is liable to kill one of your children. See how you feel about that. And I think that, and Trump, to his credit, he doesn't do like Biden and apologize. Oh, I'm going to call him newcomer. I'm sorry. How could I even say that? No, Trump just says they're animals. I don't care what you say. They are animals that can do that to another human being. They're animals. So I think that's what's happened is that, we've lost the moral imperative to straighten our country out by looking at what are the elements within our country that are really accelerating our downfall. And one of them is the lack of law and order, the fact that we have people, these young animals roaming our streets, looking for people to murder, dismember, rob, steal, push onto subway tracks in New York, do things like that. And at a level we've never seen before. Yes. And somehow our leaders don't want to criticize it, don't want to call the country on it, except for Trump and a few others, or Trump supporters who are not afraid to say, this is wrong. And this is going to bring our country down to its knees if we don't stop this.
Exactly. So everyone, our audience, if you're American citizen, we wish you just speak up, stand up, and vote and get involved in the local political, like board, school board. We need to fight back. Again, we do not have choice for ourselves, for our next generation, and for the country that we loved. And for that, I really appreciate, Tom, your time and your encouragement to speak out and to tell us what to do, and then just give us the encouragement to do the right thing in very hard time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to do it. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. And this is the English version, and I will do the Chinese version later. And once again, thank you so much, Tom, to share with us the important information and give us the encouragement that we really need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. And I really appreciate our audience for your listening to our program and your feedback. And together, let's save this country. And see you next week, Tom.
Yes. See you next week.
Thank you.
Okay.